Hello, welcome back. Episode 2 of my podcast, which does not have a name. We're getting a little bit desperate here, I'll be honest.
Or an introduction or a sign
Or
off.
the
So
introduction, sign off, thumbnail, logo, brand, you know,
everything
everything
really.
that you really need for a podcast. So we're kind of dry here.
Hey, it doesn't
But
matter. This is how we start. This is how we start.
but what's not dry is the content that we're going to be talking about today because we actually have substantive content, things that you might be actually interested in hearing about. That's not just the two of us making bad jokes for an hour straight.
I mean, we could do that too.
We will probably end up doing that, but we have a bit of a
Yep.
plan today. So, uh,
Wait, I have a question. I have a question.
oh my god, you've got a question. What's your question?
So, did you get kicked off the bed last night? What
Okay,
happened to you in
okay,
the bed?
all right. I knew Cass was gonna ask this question.
Took the couch.
Let's
Took
get
the
let's
couch.
get some housekeeping items out of the way. Okay, this
Just
right
by the
here.
way, it's February 15th, so hot drama maybe.
Okay, listen. Mm-mm. This right here is my test run at a
At
sound
getting kicked off the bed.
stop a sound absorber. You know, I'm
Oh,
too
okay, this makes sense.
lazy and or poor to set something up like you know, you can buy soundproofing stuff on your walls, or you could like tape a bunch of egg cartons or something, but that doesn't look real
Hmm.
nice.
Yes.
Soundproofing, like, you know, the boards, panels, soundproofing panels, they cost like a bajillion dollars. And I mean, it's not worth it for this level of production quality. And you know, the online tips, if you go on WikiHow, is like just fill up your room with more furniture. But this is a tiny den, and I already have as much furniture as I can basically fit in here, a
Also, it's
desk,
not bad.
computer. So
And I appreciate the blanket.
yes, that those are two stools, basically, you know, high chairs with a oriental blanket. It's very thick, you know, the
Yeah, those are
Chinese
the ones
ones.
that keep you
Yeah,
warm.
yeah,
It's
yeah, in the
only these
winter,
ones.
right?
Yes, if they don't look like that, it's not gonna
Not
work.
warm,
I got you.
not warm.
Nope.
Yeah, I just put it
Nope.
over the chair. Will it reduce the echo? Probably not. I'd be very surprised if it did. But this shows an effort to improve. Okay,
I
that
mean,
answers
we both have some improvements.
that. Yes,
Ish.
yes.
Yes.
Cassidy, please tell us about your what have you done between last episode and now?
I took my brother's gaming headset. Do I game? Absolutely not. Do I play games? Yes. But am I a gamer? No.
Cassidy's a gamer girl now. She's
I
got a
am.
gaming headset.
No, I'm really bad at platform games. Like, really bad. If I were to play Fall Guys, no, just rough.
Not too much skill
So,
involved in Fall Guys, but all right.
yeah, and I don't know.
Audio quality hopefully way up for Cassidy. I will still get her a mic. I've promised her that. And
I didn't ask for it.
she didn't ask for
Just
it. I
that I used to
promised her
try hard.
regardless. Yeah. And yeah. Hopefully, it won't be cutting in and out as much. I tuned the audio levels so it doesn't sound like she is screaming over me whenever she
Yeah,
wants to
I'm
interject
so
with a point.
sorry.
Uh,
It's okay. Barely anybody watched last one, and I hope no one does. So,
the
yeah,
average view duration of the first episode was 7 or
30
so
seconds.
minutes. 7 minutes.
Really?
7 minutes.
That's a long
Now, if I
time.
had to guess, I would say the three people that I know that watch the entire hour probably drag the average up substantially. But still, I thought it'd be like 10 seconds, you know.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys,
MVPs.
right? My girlfriend, my sister, and a mutual friend of ours.
Yes.
Um, yeah, not bad for a start. It's a terribly long intro. We should probably get into the actual meat of what we're discussing today.
Yes.
Yeah,
Probably.
probably. It's career uncertainty. We're going to talk a little bit about our experiences in our respective fields, which are very different, which is going to make for a very fun discussion. And, you know, we're at the stage in life where we're kind of supposed to be looking ahead and deciding on what we want to do for the rest of our lives, and what our views are on finding a career, our respective career paths so far, stuff like that, right? Um, Before we get into any of the questions, I think it just makes sense for us to both introduce ourselves in the context of, like, you know, our careers. What's the what field are we studying, or maybe what field are we working in if that's different? What industries do we want to go into? stuff like that. So I'll let Cass go first so I can stop talking and drink some water. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so um, yeah, so I'm in design. Recently, I got accepted into a design school to study interior design. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, but so at this point in time, Zaiyou and I are both 20, so we've had a couple of years outside of high school, and so for actually no. Once I graduated, I went to a college, community college, which has a lot of like negative connotation, but we can get into
Yeah,
that
we'll get
later.
into that. We will.
Yeah, but went to community college, loved it there, made probably the best friends I could ever make. And
Ouch.
did a sorry, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute.
Not anyway. I
Continue.
said some of the best friends. Okay. Anyway, did a foundational design program because I knew in high school that I was probably going to decide on interior design anyway, but I just didn't have the means to like actually try other things. And also, the high school I went to didn't really have an adequate graphics program for me to really make a good judgment. I was like, okay, I might as well just try everything and then narrow down to what I'm sure I want to choose. And I ended up choosing interior design.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of like the TLDR.
Okay, so quick question,
Hmm.
clarification question. In even in high school or coming out of high school, you knew you wanted to do something. I won't say maybe artistic, but if it fits the bill, artistic or creative at the very least.
Hmm.
But so you ruled out a lot of things, but you didn't know what exactly you wanted to do within that creative sphere, and you narrowed it down through your post-secondary education. Is that correct?
Exactly, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, anything else you want to talk about for your side?
Uh, no, we'll probably get back into it
Yeah,
later.
we'll get back to into it when we answer some of the questions that we've like written down. For me, I had a. Is it similar or is it like the polar opposite? In high school, when I went into high school, I thought I wanted to do sciences, or something STEM related. Going from elementary school, if you want to go that far back, into high school, you don't know what the heck sciences are, right? Like it's just the fancy, the academic one, right? The cool thing. You don't even know that it splits off into physics, chemistry, biology in high school, and then in university, those three branches go into a bajillion different, fields, right? Very, very specific fields. I thought I wanted to do STEM. I was good at math. Didn't enjoy it in the slightest. Hate it to this day, but was good at it, right? And that was at a point in time when I couldn't really differentiate things I was passionate about versus things I was good at or had talent with, right? Throughout high school, I had a pretty intensive course load, workload. I was in the IB program. I did a bunch of extracurriculars, and I realized that
Not a bunch, a lot. A
extracurriculars.
lot.
I did them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you did.
I did a couple.
I mean, compared to me.
I did like one more than you. We both did frisbee, and I did
No.
debate.
No, and then you did like non-profit stuff.
Okay, yeah, I did nonprofit stuff. The
Dude,
just the
I
huge.
had zero. Okay, anyway,
The huge. Cat, you know
I
what? It's
digress.
because Cass was actually good at the one thing that she did, so
No,
I
no,
had to
that's not
like
it. That's
widen
not.
the reach to make up for that.
No, no,
Um,
no, no, no.
and I realized I didn't like any of the things that I was studying, or I should specify, I liked learning about it, but I could not see myself working any sort of job related to that. Right. I actually find biology quite interesting. Even my grade 12 IB higher level biology courses, I quite liked it, but I couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. I really like geography. I'm still quite passionate about like urban geography and stuff like that, but I don't think it would be the best fit for a job for me. Right. I'd love to incorporate my knowledge of urban geography, which I'm studying as like a couple elective courses in university right now. I'd love to incorporate it into my job somehow, but not my main focus, which made it very difficult for me to choose a program in post-secondary education. And my approach, quite unlike Cass because I did not even have a sphere that I wanted to go into. I just went, my thought process rather was, okay, I've tried all these things. I'm not passionate about any of them so far. I'm going to pick something that I've never experienced before and just to hope it hits. And if it doesn't, well, that's a problem for later me. So I applied for the business program at UBC, Commerce Program, Sauder School of Business, got in and have been very lucky that I've been enjoying my program. Yeah.
That's the best case scenario,
That
honestly.
it really is the best case scenario because I had no clue.
Yeah, and like that, so many people start off like that. And it's like, if you're somehow listening to this and you actually knew this conversation, just know that like even the people who look like they know what they're doing, they're probably going to end up not knowing eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's very uncommon to know.
You, even if you feel like you're on like a very good path and you're quite sure that you're going where you want to go, eventually you reach the end of the path, right? At some point in your life you have to head out into the unknown. I mean, otherwise you're just living the most sheltered, bubbled life that anyone has ever seen, and who wants to live like that, right? To be just completely coddled by your environment for your entire life.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. um yeah, okay, so we have, somewhat different experiences, even in terms of finding our passions, if you can call what stage we're at in life right now. Passion. We'll move on to the first question then. I don't have a first question because these are not in order. There's just a bunch of questions. You have a question you want to
Maybe
talk
we
about
can
first?
maybe let's start off with high school.
Okay.
'Cause I feel like that's when most people decide, like, or start thinking about it at least, like 17, 18,
Okay, yeah.
maybe.
What was your
Yeah.
experience when you were 17 or 18, looking ahead?
I was scared. I was so scared because at that point in time, like, all I cared about was frisbee,
It's the
as
same.
most people did. Like, um, doing well. Uh, for me in club, or like trying to make the highest team that I possibly could. That's all I really cared about. And like, I think grade 12 especially, like I was going through a lot of things, but like the biggest one was like, okay, I need to double down and actually figure out what I want to do, because frisbee is not going to be substantial, like
Maltese not
I
life,
no. It is not. The disc is not
unfortunately.
life, man.
The
And
disc isn't
like,
life.
and in general, like, for people, because I've played other competitive sports, and the people that I grew up with in those sports are now playing like on national teams, and they're
Right.
very famous.
Yeah.
And like, reality is, for athletes, not everybody's going to be professional,
No, no.
right? And as a woman in sports, like, you're
I
gonna
mean,
need a day job.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
you're
so like,
absolutely competing in the top 0.1%, like, the money's not
exactly.
there for a lot of sports, the
Exactly,
audience isn't
yeah. And
there. Yeah.
so just for the athletes out there, like, dream big, you can do it, but realistically you need a second
A
option,
backup.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so back to grade 12, um really like narrowed in what I wanted to focus on. So at that time it was making the best team that I possibly could for that summer, then also having a better idea of where I wanted to go. And so, I don't know if it's like this for private schools, but like, when you do course planning,
Mm-hmm.
you choose like at the end of grade 11
Mm-hmm.
and then like for grade 12,
Yeah.
right? So, choosing in grade 11, I was like, okay, I know which subject areas I am for sure not going into,
Mm-hmm.
and that's sciences and business. Absolutely cannot. Like, am I bad at them? No. Is it horrible for me? Yes, right? So it's like, okay, I'm not even gonna dabble in it. I just already know. And like, to this day, I wish I didn't take pre-calc 12. I just didn't need it.
Yeah.
But like,
Right.
there's always like, I think for us, Well, Zayu has a wider demographic, but for where I went to school, it was predominantly Asian. So like South Asian, Filipino, Vietnamese, and Chinese. Those were the four main things. Like there's literally like seven Caucasian people in my grade, like predominantly Asian. So it's like it was really difficult to make the choice of cutting off my STEM pathways because
Mm,
no one was doing that and everybody was like,
right.
what are you doing?
Yeah,
Why are
makes
you
sense.
only taking electives? Right? And so if somebody's listening again and if you are in the same position, you want to do something more tradesy or more hands-on, just do it. Take as many courses as you can, even if the program at your school is not good. Just do it because it's still experience. And also, like, if you know you're not gonna do it, you know you're not gonna enjoy it, you're just gonna be happier. I
Yeah.
think that's probably if you get anything out of this podcast today, I just do what makes you happy
Yeah.
um because a lot of people will joke about like, oh, creative arts, even though design and art are different, but like, oh, the creative arts, starving artist, you're not gonna make money, blah 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 blah. But it's like, how do you know that? Are you in it? Did
Yeah.
you try?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, don't let people's mis or like yeah, don't let people's misunderstandings of certain fields sway you from not doing it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's what.
Yeah, I think it's a good starting place for high school because actually I didn't realize how different our experiences were. Until we really started talking about it. We definitely later want to tackle the idea of like following your passion and your dream and your heart when it comes to career choices and how that manifests itself in different fields. Because obviously, Cass and I are in very, very different fields and we have different views on that. But for me, for high school, wow, I had a vastly different experience. So, in terms of demographic, yeah, my school was bigger, larger population, wider demographic of people, students rather. However, I was in the IB program, and that was predominantly East Asian, um, probably almost entirely Chinese. I don't have stats for that, but if I just remember all the people I can remember from my program, almost all Chinese.
We
Um,
rep in. We rep in.
yeah, and in IB, you don't have a lot of freedom to choose your courses. It's a 2 year program, grade 11 and 12, which, if God forbid you're listening to the first two episodes from outside Vancouver, Canada, which YouTube analytics told me there was one person who listened to this, to episode one outside of Canada. I don't know who it is.
Amazing.
um, IB is a 2 year program in your last 2 years of high school before, post secondary or whatever you want to do after secondary school, right? Why am I explaining that? IB is literally called International Baccalaureate. Hopefully, you would know what IB is from whatever country
Some
you're
people
listening to
do.
this from.
Not
But
all schools have IB,
no, not
so
all schools have
yeah.
IB. Actually, IB is bigger in a lot of countries outside of North America, surprisingly.
I mean that makes sense because a lot of people are trying to come to like the
Yeah,
states for school. Okay,
yeah,
that makes
yeah, yeah,
sense.
yeah, exactly. So they would take IB in their respective countries and then apply with IB grades that are hopefully more applicable for like
Yeah, we
admissions.
digress. We
We
digress.
digress. This is in the IB program, and in IB, you have to choose classes in each of the groups, which are essentially subjects, right? Sciences, humanities. You have to take a math class. You have to take a like a primary language class, which for us here in Vancouver is all English, and then you have to take a was it? You have to take a secondary language. I don't remember, but you get the gist of it, right? We had six different
Probably. Yeah.
groups. Well, I remember if you didn't want to take a arts one, I don't know what the group is called. I'm sorry. At our school, the courses that were offered were, I think, film studies, like fine arts.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
and
so fun.
I forget what the last one is, but you could opt out of those ones and take an extra sciences or language or whatever. So I had to have a pretty broad range of subject matters when I was studying. I had a mandated science. I took chemistry. I had a mandatory humanities. I took geography. Um, language is English. Secondary language is French. I opted out of the arts one to take a second science, which I won't say I regret because I don't think there are that many other options at my school that I would have enjoyed. But I regret in
Like
the
at
sense
your
that
school or in the IB program?
in the IB program at my school,
Okay, I see.
right?
I see. I see.
Because we still have to take it within the program, IB courses, and while there are a ton of really amazing IB courses like that exist worldwide, not all of them are offered at every school. And so I kind of wished I would have had the opportunity to take economics in as a humanities subject. I believe in other parts of the world or other
I
schools,
see.
IB, like
I
there's an
see.
IB economics class or an IB. There's even like a business something. I don't know if it's business management or intro to business something class.
Business E.
Yeah, business ed as a humanities course. My only choices were history, geography, and how am I blanking on the third humanities? Am I missing something really obvious? Psych. It was yeah.
Yes, that was
It was
offered at my school
yeah.
too. Yeah.
I digress. Um, so I didn't really have the opportunity to pick what I wanted to do in IB because I had to do everything. Now I actually believe that's not a bad thing necessarily for people of that age because you are forced to expand your horizons. And I can definitely see benefit to that, right? If you're a STEM student that's like, I'm just going to do math, screw everything else. You have the opportunity to at least dabble a little bit in something else. Maybe Cass has a differing opinion because she's, a prime example of she just knew from the day she came out of the womb, STEM was not for her and she hates it.
No, it's more like I had to take physics 11 and I cannot handle this.
Yeah. So you could definitely see both sides for that. But that did have an effect on me in the sense that I never looked ahead to really reflect on what I wanted to do for the rest of my life because I had so much to focus on in the short term, right? IB's, for most people, quite an intensive program, at least definitely compared to the general Vancouver, BC, Canadian educational system. It's very advanced compared to China.
Yes.
Maybe not. And so I just, every day I'd come home, just grind. All right, homework assignment, paper, writing, type something out, group project. And I was so focused on just getting to the next checkpoint and trying to survive that I never had the time to reflect. Which is why going into university, I just applied for stuff that, who knows? I didn't really dabble in economics or business. Who knows if I'd enjoy it?
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it.
Screw it. Yeah.
My experience in high school was very much just trudge along until the next thing happens, the next step, if that makes sense, right? You're finished IB, okay, what's the next thing? Like get into a good university program, finish your university degree, and then the next, just take the next step. Whatever the people around you are doing, just do that. And if I hadn't realized by this point, I would realize very soon that there is no next step after university. There's no
Concrete.
concrete, accepted, place to go to if you don't know what to do. For some, you might say that's like a master's program, right, or just further schooling. But in my opinion, at that point, like financial concerns kind of become a thing, right? Like if you just said, okay, if you don't know what to do after university, your bachelor's degree, just go get a master's, go get a PhD. Yes, but
do you need
it? Do you need it? Will it help you later in life if you're not interested in it? You don't just decide to get a PhD, right?
I mean, some people do, and like, kudos.
But those
like,
are the people that are probably already talented in their field, right? Or truly passionate in their field, right? If I don't know
yeah,
what I'm
and it
going to
definitely
do,
depends on what you're studying as well. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah. We're gonna end on the same point, right? It depends. You can't just expect anyone to finish their bachelor's degree who doesn't know what step to take next to just go get a PhD, right?
And that being said, like, you don't even need a bachelor's.
No.
You don't even need a degree. Like, it's just, well, actually, I don't know about for Zaiyou and like academic schooling, but for more hands-on creative stuff, like going to school is just training for us at least. It's like we don't for some things like interior design you'll need a credential. Like you'll need to have like obviously a standardized like how to do this type of thing, but like for graphic design you could be totally self-taught
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and still bank and still thrive. But like going to school is definitely like training. Yeah, for us at least.
I want to have a small tangent here.
Hmm.
I, I won't call it a tangent because I think it's actually an actual discussion topic. I could see the YouTube chapter start, right here, right now. Be easy for me to find as well when I'm putting them in, when I make this motion.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Um, Putting the YouTube chapters on the first episode. That's a nice little touch. I'll tell you my view on how education factors into the business realm,
Hmm.
because that's obviously where I have the most experience with. I know somewhat with other fields because I've talked to friends and stuff, but after I say it, I want to hear your thoughts on obviously your area of expertise, right? In business, I think you don't need a credential. Need, okay, we're throwing around this term loosely. There are plenty of self-taught entrepreneurs, right? People who just are born leaders and have either the resources, disposable resources, a small loan of $1 million, or are just so good at pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and creating something, a business, that they can be successful without any formal education. On the other hand, that, like any field, is the very small minority of a very small minority of people, right? By that point, you could just say, talented athletes don't even need any coaching. They just, or a lot of training. They're just born gifted, right? Got
That's
athletic
true.
abilities.
That's
They
true.
just excel at everything they do. You put them on a team, they excel. In business, if we take something like human resources, which is the field that I'm going into, currently in, I gotta stop saying that. You can definitely become an HR manager without a degree in HR or even business. In fact, that's quite. I don't know if I'm making shit up if I say that's quite common, but it's not uncommon. It's not rare, right? What you do is you
Yeah.
start as
Yeah.
a company as a low level employee. You work your way up. You demonstrate the ability to manage people, organize people, be on top of things, and you work your way into the HR department because you know the company in and out, right? And in HR, you need to know the company because you're working with all the employees. However, if you're looking at larger corporations, anything in the tech sector or whatever, right? You think Apple's going to hire someone who doesn't have any formal education or training in HR, leadership, or organizational behavior, or benefits administration, payroll, like whatever, right? No, probably not.
Yeah.
Because at that stage, you're competing with other people who do have qualifications, right? If you're working for a tiny company and they don't have the budget to afford a $100,000 HR manager or an HR recruiting specialist, a generalist, a business partner who does consulting for their organizational change, like whatever, uh, they're just going to promote whatever random dude started at their company 5 years ago into the HR position. Right?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes
But
sense.
depending on where you're aiming for, you're going to need credentials because you're competing against people with credentials, right? However, just earlier hearing Cass talk about design and graphic design, art, the creative field, I think it makes sense that you might not need as much formal education because you can have your own portfolio, right? It's easier to show what you can do because you have deliverables, right? In graphic design, you can show things that you have designed before and say, this is my level of skill, this is my area of expertise. Does that match what you want to do? Whereas in business, dude, how the hell do I go up to a CEO and be like, okay,
Here's
trust
my
me. Yeah,
stats. The
here's my
receipts.
here's my stats. Here's my stats. Okay, this is how many people I've led.
I've
Without
talked to this
training.
many people in
Exactly.
20 minutes.
Right.
Thanks.
There's no proof as to how I'm gonna be good at leading people and administering benefits and stuff like that. Right. And so the only
I am
quantifiable
your
measure.
shepherd.
Yeah.
Lead the way.
Yeah. The only quantifiable measure you have of that, other than work experience, right? But we're talking first job. Obviously, if you have work experience, the door's wide open to you. You could just talk about your previous work experience. The only quantifiable measure I have of my ability to perform is, formal education, certificates, diplomas, degrees, whatever. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, obviously, I know next to nothing about business other than taking like a super basic marketing course because I had to, and but anyway, yeah, like the thing about design also. Actually, no, I'm gonna start off with this. You can teach somebody how to draw, but you can't teach them what to draw,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like tricky thing about the creative arts is like if you have the ideas, you can be taught the skills,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
If you only have the skills per se and not the ideas, which no one has. Like everybody has an idea
Yeah.
obviously, but let's
Sure.
just say
Yeah. Yeah. You're not a
let's just say
particularly creative person, but you can.
you have the skills.
Yeah.
There's going to be different jobs for you if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's say like for interior design, obviously I'm not an expert yet, but in general, um you could be like obviously a designer or you could be a draftsman. So somebody who's really good at drawing like essentially blueprints,
Mm-hmm.
floor plans,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Their job is connected with designers, but they are not the ones making up the ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
like the more technical people obviously need credentials
Mm-hmm.
because it's a language. They need to make sure that like building engineers don't misread
Yeah.
anything.
Right. Right. Right.
And we know, yeah, we know why that's super important. But
Yes.
also, but like, use graphic design as an example a lot because it's the most open ended. Like, yeah, like if you compare somebody who went to a 4 degree a 4 year degree program, and then somebody who just freelanced after a 2 year program, right? Their portfolios can look exactly the same,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you won't even be able to tell who got a degree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, because all a degree is, in my opinion, as a creative, is that it's just check mark, like you did
Yes.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you can obviously learn just as much just by freelancing on little like smaller businesses and then trying to get the top dogs,
Yeah.
right? I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that going to a degree program really helps you get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so like in terms of like making connections, doing or getting your first job, it'll definitely help if you do a degree. But other than that, like just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to make that point.
I think the more general you make your statements, right, the farther back you look, it's probably going to apply in the same way to almost every single field. So, for example, in business, again, in let's say HR, a lot of skills revolve around leadership and being able to interact with people, communicate effectively, stuff like that, right? Like in terms of soft skills, not hard skills, like stuff you actually learn in HR classes, but as a person, right, your character traits.
Yeah.
Can that be taught in school? Not really. I'm inclined to say sort of because I'm literally taking like leadership classes and they're breaking it down to a science and what kind of skills you can implement. Yes.
I feel like you'd be taught like how to be polite, like the general lingo, but like depends on how you apply those skills, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say you would be surprised how much you can break leadership and charismatic skills down to a science, and how you can take like very simple steps to becoming a better communicator, a better speaker, a better leader, etc. But it's hard to convince the general public that leadership is not a inherent trait, right? It's hard not to
Yeah.
view certain people as natural born leaders or just very good at working with people, right? People, being a people's person. There are absolutely things you can do to improve on that skill, and it can be taught to an extent, in my opinion. But it's hard to ignore the fact that certain people have an aptitude towards it, at the very least. They're just a little bit more inclined in that direction. In business, I'd be an absolute liar to everyone listening to this if I said that you absolutely didn't need a degree and you could just do whatever you want, right? Unless you're going the route of entrepreneurship, in which case, yeah, obviously, you're on your own, you're your own boss, do whatever. Good on you for succeeding if you do. If you're applying to any job in any field, a credential helps. It gets your foot in the door, exactly like Cass said, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you need it, because the trade-off of getting your credentials, let's say a master's program, it's called an MBA, Master's in Business Administration. So you're going to need, let's say, a 4-year undergrad, and then I'm going to be completely honest, I don't even know how long an MBA takes. I feel like it's like 2 to 3 years. It'd be real embarrassing if I was really off on that. I have not looked into it because
I'll fact check. Put it in the corner.
Yeah, in the short term, I'm not looking to do my MBA. How long does an MBA take? Oh.
Just a reminder, we are not experts here, and we are quite young still. So
a traditional MBA is a full-time 2-year program. Okay, yeah, I said 2 to 3 years is close enough. 6 years. 6 years is what it would take you to get that level of credentials and to feel like, cool, I checked off 2 boxes: Bachelor of Commerce, MBA. I'm gonna apply to a job in this range, this salary range, let's say. In those 6 years, who knows what you could have done, right? In the arts or the creative domain, I feel like it's a lot easier to know what you could be doing in those 6 years. Create. Opportunities are not necessarily like, you don't have to get a job as a graphic designer, work for 2 years, and then get another job as a graphic designer for 2 years. If you want to take up a project, that's freelance. If you want to take up a project, that's like I don't know the terminology for this, but like a one-time.
like it's not as set in stone.
Yeah.
Like literally, you can take as long as you want. You can take as little time as you want to get a job. You don't even have to get a job. Like Zaiyou said, you can go freelance.
Yeah.
You can make your own business, make your own firm.
Yeah.
Like, I think the biggest difference between creatives or creative jobs and in general everything else is how many different paths you can take and how easy it is to forge your own path.
Yeah.
Which I think is scary for some people.
Yeah, scary for some, and
yeah.
very
Yeah, but you can definitely take like a more traditional approach and work for a firm.
Yeah.
And many people do that.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, like, formal education is really, it's just the common path, right? As opposed to the road less taken. It's the road most taken, because that's just the standard, right? Maybe I shouldn't say that, because that's not the world we want to live in, where that is the standard, and you want more freedom, right? Encouraging people around our ages to kind of pursue whichever path, without having a bias towards one of them. But at least currently, it's just the standard. You get a degree, and then that helps you get a job. That's just how it works.
Yes.
Whereas really, if you wanted to, you could look for a lot of opportunities outside of formal education. Yeah. Okay. There's still a lot we could talk about on this topic, but my little tangent has already lasted a really long time with kind of business versus design and stuff like that. Let's move on.
Some people might be looking for it.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully, one person listens to this and goes, I'm inspired. I'm going to become a Twitch streamer now. I don't know. Like
hey, Adora, I'm rooting for you. You have no idea.
Yeah. Eventually, 20 episodes in, people are going to start piecing together everyone that we're talking about.
This is true. Yikes.
Next question. What about thinking you know what you want to do and then realizing you don't? Have you had any experience with that?
Yes and no. Maybe not as drastic as some people, but I've definitely had that. Um, Going into my college program, which covered graphic design, retail design, so like commercial spaces, stuff like that, and exhibit design. And yeah, those are the main three ones. Um, Going in, I was like really, or I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't think I wanted to go into interior design again because I think I mixed it up too much with interior decorating. So if you don't know the difference, interior
Mm,
decorating is like, you know, um, just like, oh, what do I want to put on my walls? This and that, right? But interior design is more like, okay, how can I make this space as functional and as easy to use for as many people as possible, per
architecture, but
se.
inside.
Yes, that's exactly what that is. And so, for the longest time, I was like, maybe I want to do architecture instead because, you know, theoretically, it's gonna have a bigger impact
Because it's
on more
interior design and
people.
outside.
Yes, yes. I was like, do I want to be outside or inside?
Yeah.
But yeah. Eventually, I figured, okay, architecture is not for me, just because I'd rather have my design choices have a more personal effect on
Mm,
people. So that's why I
yeah.
chose that. But also another thing was that I learned that I wasn't actually terrible with computers and that graphic design was actually something I could have realistically chosen to as a career. And I was also struggling with that as well
Mm-hmm.
during my 2 year program. I was like, okay, I want to be more on the 2D side or more on the 3D
Mm-hmm.
side, because like it's obviously it's possible to make a career out of both, but it's like you got to start somewhere.
Right, right,
Like
right.
I didn't want to,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
didn't want to be a jack of all trades
Yeah.
yet. But anyway, so deciding that was difficult until I kind of just thought to myself, like, okay, I'm only here on this earth for like not that long. How do I want to impact other people, right? And the reason why I chose interior design over graphic design after outing architecture is because I would rather, again, have a more direct effect on people rather than just like with graphic design. To me, sometimes it's just telling people, like, oh, like it's easier to do this now. Like all of these other designers have fixed this, I don't know, this thing, right? But
Yeah.
I'd rather be part of the people that are like, oh, there's an issue here, let's physically fix it so people in wheelchairs, for example, can go up now.
Yeah. I think
Like
that's a. No, no,
yeah, I just
I'll let
wanted
you
a
finish
more
what you're saying.
hands-on approach
Sure.
to design. Yeah.
Well, I think even
Yeah.
if you didn't go that far in your analysis, which is great, uh, graphic design or architecture is mostly for. I almost said mostly for show, knowing that's not true, because there's a huge element of usability to it,
Yes.
right? And like pragmatics. But I say it's for show in the sense that it's to show. It's going to be shown. You know it's going to be shown. It's like visually, people are going to walk by
Yeah,
whatever
you
you're
can't miss
designing. Yeah,
it.
you can't. The
You
point is
cannot
not to
miss
miss
it.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas interior design, it's not as the audience is not as wide because not everyone's going into the space that you're creating or using whatever you're designing. But you're completely right, or rather, I completely agree with your sentiment that it's more personal when they do, right? If someone walks into a room that you designed, that's such a naive and vague way of describing it.
That's okay.
But
It's fine.
I'm not interior design, so I'm going to stick with it. Someone walks into a room that you designed, you know that they feel the effects of your craft, right? However you made
Yes.
it, they feel the effects of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. That's cool.
So that was my bit of struggling here and there. Obviously, in high school, I was more like, okay, do I choose the regular route, business or
Mm-hmm.
science, or do I actually do what I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough because I got good grades, and that if I went into science and all that stuff, I would have struggled, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
like my grades wouldn't have shown that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was more like, okay, what would I be happier with? And obviously, I was lucky that my parents, supported me with whatever I chose, and I'm super blessed for that. But like, yeah, so that's how I decided.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, what impact did I want to make on people, and what would make me the most happiest? That's
Interesting.
how I decided.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a very well thought out and mature approach to it, right? The impact that I want to have on people. For me, I have at various points in my life wanted to do a variety of things. I think my very first dream job was a paleontologist. I liked
Hey,
dinosaurs.
that's sick.
I really liked
Don't
dinosaurs.
tell anyone otherwise.
I really, really liked dinosaurs. Um, Following that, I wanted to be a pilot. That one I kind of throw under the bus. I don't really count that. I'm not sure what kind of obsession I had with planes for all of 3 months. Also, my eyesight's too shitty for that, so we don't have to talk about that. And then after that, I remember I wanted to be an inventor. Hoo-hoo. Just wanted to invent
Ooh.
things. I went through a little.
I mean, you still could.
I uh, we'll touch back on that in 60 seconds. Watch.
All right, all right.
Um, I just want to create things. I had a phase where I liked doing arts and crafts and making things. Right. Want to be a scientist. I think I was really high on what was it? There's something in chemistry, but I don't remember what it was anymore. A something, not
I cannot help you
biochemistry.
here.
No, you can't. I know it wasn't biochemistry. It wasn't
I tried to take chem, took 1 week, and I was like, this ain't for me, and dropped it. Never looked back.
chemical engineering. Maybe I wanted to do chemical engineering. Something very specific. I had it, down to the program at certain schools that I wanted to apply to. This was when I was in grade 9 or 10. I wanted to apply to certain states,
That's early.
and I was wrong. It was too early. I'm glad I didn't do that. Um, and then went into business school, enjoyed business, but still for the first year at Sauder didn't know what I wanted to do in business. Right. My big realization, this doesn't actually answer my original question of not finding out that I am not passionate about what I'm studying, because it's not as applicable. I haven't had a strong experience with that. But my big realization as to what I wanted to pursue, which is OBHR, is that all the career paths that I've considered in the past, not counting being a pilot, again, we're going to just forget that happened, they all revolved around creating. And creating. I wanted to make something. Paleontology, not so much. I'm rediscovering things that died 60 plus million years ago, but maybe in my 6-7 year old brain I thought of creating the full skeleton of a stegosaurus. So
That's
maybe
sick,
you could
though.
fit it in, into my
I'll count it.
analogy.
I'll count it.
I wanted to create. Now, at different points in my life, I didn't know what I wanted to create, and I didn't know the options I had. Right, I didn't know what business was. Just like Cass still doesn't know what business is until you're in business school, really.
Yes.
And at other points in my life, oh, I totally forgot about the phase where I wanted to be like a psychologist, or like a teacher, or like a counselor, someone working with people, right? My realization in Sauder was that at my business school was that I wanted to create, and I wanted to work with people because I felt like I had people skills, whatever. And the intersection of that in business is very obviously HR. It's the one that works with people, right? If you had to stereotype it. And if I were to shoot a little bit higher and look at a more idealistic world, creating a business is also creating something, right? Creating something that lasts, creating something that has impact on people. And I definitely have to work with people if I were to start my own business. So that is kind of what I'm heading towards. However, I think that my approach is a little bit different than some of my peers. I know a lot of people around me are like, I want to create a business and I won't settle for less, right? I'm going to make it big. I'm going to make my own business and I'm going to get rich off of it. Whereas for me,
We're gonna make seven
yeah,
figures.
we're going to make 7 figures by whatever,
Yeah.
e-commerce, whatever. For me, I have absolutely no problem just working. Like for me, working a 9 to 5 in HR, I'm completely okay with because I'm very okay with routine, schedule, put my head down and do work. That's not to say I'm like boring and I don't care what I do. I definitely care what my job is.
It's just you don't mind structure.
I don't mind
Yeah.
structure, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like, right out of graduation I have to start my own business or else it'll be a failure. There's no way I'm going to work for corporate pigs, like I'm fine doing an HR job for 5-10 years and then trying my hand at starting a business if I feel like I have more resources then. Cool. Now,
Yeah, I think like a good tangent for that is like, yeah, some people are just naturally way more ambitious than others. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
yeah,
like I think like that whole saying like whoever your friends are you, that's who you become. Something like that.
sure. We're just making up sayings now, but you
No, no,
can.
no, it's not. There's a saying that's along those lines. And it's like, I think at this particular time in our lives, it's very unstable in the sense that we're not working career jobs, most
Right.
of us,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Or you wouldn't
And
know
like,
if you were.
yeah, and it's like we don't really have the best idea at the moment of what we want to do and
Mhm.
where we're going, and especially right now, like who can even plan for the future right now in
Yes.
COVID,
Yeah, during COVID.
right? So I think it's like I just want to make a point to say whoever you surround yourself with at this age, especially right now in 2021, is super duper important. Like if like there's a couple people who like shame you for not being ambitious enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying you need to work harder. Like why aren't you trying to get internships right now? Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
honestly, like fuck you. Like it's so different for everybody,
It's not a
right?
race.
And yeah, it's not a race. And the idea of stability is different for everyone, right? Like for some people, well, okay, I think if you ask somebody, right, or if you ask individually, we're all gonna say we want to live different lifestyles, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's different, right? Not every lifestyle is gonna need a seven-figure
Yeah,
salary.
yeah,
So it's like just because your friends or peers or whatever want that doesn't mean you need to want that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
And like and there's no shame in focusing on your mental health and on whether you want to focus more on being happier
yeah, yeah.
or
Or
whatever.
just being
Yeah.
honest with your capabilities and your desires. If you don't want 7 figures, why are you trying to get a job that pays 7 figures and like beating yourself up over not, getting those jobs or whatever?
Yeah, and it's like are you beating yourself up or are your influences
Yes.
beating
Is your
you
yeah,
up?
is your
Yeah.
environment convincing you that you absolutely need something that you don't, or you should be striving for something that you don't actually need? Okay.
Yeah, and yeah. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to make a point here before
Yeah.
we moved
Yeah,
on.
I agree.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, we don't have that much time left. I mean, we technically do because we could record for as long as we want. That's the
This is
freedom of
true.
having your own podcast. Um, but in the interest of keeping things somewhat consistent, guess how much time we have left?
I so 5 minutes.
I also don't know, Cass, because I didn't start a timer, much like last time. I
Okay.
forgot. But I
Ah, I
think we
see.
have around 5 to 10 minutes. So I
We
think
started at yeah.
35.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about two short things to end off with.
Okay.
One, we'll finish this thought of sort of the pressures of your environment and why you don't necessarily have to follow that. Although I feel like this is going to be a topic that's going to return in a further episode, maybe outside the context of careers next time. And secondly, I want some tips out of both of us for people I don't know, younger in a position that we were in 5 years ago or something like that, what would you? Okay, well, I'll introduce that topic when we get down to the last, like
Okay,
two,
okay.
3 minutes. So finishing up this thought, I think I agree. Your environment is so influential to what you desire or what you think you desire, right? If everyone around you is following a certain path and expecting you to be getting internships in your third year in university or something like that, it definitely feels like you should be doing that as well, and that you're missing out, or you're going to be a failure, or you're going to be at a disadvantage when you graduate if you don't. One of the things that I've learned throughout business school is that the world, or just going to university, not even in my program necessarily, the world is so big. There are just so many people doing so many different things, and if you feel like your path is not, you're not taking the right path compared to the people around you, I can guarantee you there are a bajillion other people taking the exact same path as you who are like, this is my dream, I can't believe I'm doing this, I can't believe I got to go to a trade school, I'm the first person in 10 generations to have any sort of post-secondary education, right? Or, wow, I'm so lucky that I got a job straight out of high school and I've just been working at the same place for 15 years. That's the type of stability I want in my life, right? Decide for yourself. And I know that's easier said than done, but at the very least, challenge your own influences and your own desires, and ask yourself, do I truly want this, or is it just what everyone around me is doing?
Yeah, and just a quick thing, like that's not just for careers, just like everything in general.
Yeah,
Like question everybody, but don't forget to question yourself
yeah,
too.
yeah. Be
Yeah.
critical. Okay. I will let you give some tips. I think the hypothetical imaginary situation we want here is, if you had a friend, they are 4 or 5 years older, still in high school right now, they just hit you up and they're
Or
like,
5 years younger than
younger,
us.
younger.
Okay, okay, okay.
Or if you could talk to yourself 4 or 5 years ago, what would you tell them?
Ooh.
Now, this is not advice that's professional necessarily, and it's not
Mhm.
advice that has to be, you could if you want, has to be like industry advice, right? Or like advice about your specific field. You don't have to be like, oh my god, okay, Cassidy from 5 years ago, if you want to go into design, go to this school because it's the best school. I didn't realize until I graduated, like, just apply for this school, right? It doesn't have to be specific like that. But what would you tell them to encourage them, soothe them, inspire them
Hmm.
about the future?
Okay. The first thing is, it's not the end of the world if the school you go to does not provide the best programs.
Ooh,
Okay?
that's a big
There
one.
are, yeah, there are, well, because we live in the city, I don't know how it is elsewhere, but where we live, there are so many different ways to learn things.
Mm.
Online is definitely one.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally can't learn online. That's fine. There are summer intensives specifically for high schoolers that
Mm-hmm.
you can that you can take. In 2017, I did a comics and illustrations thing just because I thought maybe I like drawing, and turns out I didn't like drawing that way that much. So, like, just try new things because um, finding out things that you don't like is equally as important as
Yes.
finding things that you do like.
Yes.
And you need to keep track of what you don't like.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's my tip.
I'm gonna add to what you just said before I do mine. It's oh my god, I need to find this quotes about mistakes. Okay, it's a Thomas Edison quote about mistakes. I have not failed 10,000 times. I have not failed once. I have succeeded in proving that those 10,000 ways will not work. When I have eliminated the ways that will not work, I will find the way that will work. I absolutely agree.
Exactly.
Finding
Yeah.
something you don't like is just as important as finding something that you do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so like listen to yourself. If you hate studying, don't go into an academic thing
Yeah.
unless that's what you're totally interested in.
Yeah.
If you like if you like doing stuff with your hands, try woodwork, try metalwork, try anything. There
Mm-hmm.
are so many jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let other people's connotations of things sway you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my main advice.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I agree. I mean, even from my own personal experience, the things I learned in high school, I just didn't like them. But if I saw
Yeah.
that as a failure, I would be literally, I would feel defeated. I would be like, I've tried so much. I was forced to take all these different subjects, and I didn't like any of them. What the hell am I going to do? Instead, I just picked a subject that I'd never tried before because I was like, well, you know what? I figured out 6 things that I don't want to do. Maybe the seventh one in university will be the one that's it. And if it's not,
Please,
yeah,
please.
I hope so because I'll be paying tuition. But if not, GG, go next. Okay.
Yeah.
My tip is going to be careers or jobs, whatever. I don't care about the terminology. They're about a lot more than the field that you're studying or working in. I should stop saying studying because not everything is academic.
Yes.
When you're younger, and you think about science, remember way back at the start, I brought up the example of science is just ooh,
Yes.
bubbles, reactions. And then later you learn that science is typically split into physics, biology, chemistry, at least in the Canadian education system, right? High school education system, North American high school education system. And then when you graduate, let's say you pick chemistry, you pick biology, you go into university, you find out bajillion subcategories of each of them. They just chart downwards. Microbiology, neuroscience. Wow, I blanked on 2 things. That's crazy. Biochemistry, materials engineering. I think that's part of
I
physics.
would
Material.
absolutely not know.
I'm just saying words that Cassidy doesn't understand anymore. So
Yep.
you get the point. A bajillion different sciences. Even if you knew, without a shadow of doubt in your mind, biochemistry, that's the one. That is the one. I know. I want to study biochemistry for the rest of my life. You're going to take different biochemistry classes in university, right? And you will realize, oh, never mind. That's a deeper field than I thought. There's more things within that domain than I expected, and I could specialize in a dozen different things within the field of biochemistry. And even if you knew down to the most specific specialization you could find in the program at your post-secondary education in whatever science you want to do, that still doesn't dictate what kind of job you're going to do, right? I could narrow it down to a what's it called? Human resource management specialization in my organizational behavior and human resources program, in my organizational behavior and human resources option in my Bachelor of Commerce program. And that still doesn't mean that I have a specific job set out for me when I graduate. Yes. I could go into consulting. I could work as a HR generalist. I could try to apply for a more senior HR manager position. There are so many things that you can do with specific niche knowledge, right? That's when you have to start considering things like your skills, your soft skills, outside of just what you know, right? Do you want to work with people? Do you want to work in this type of environment, more flexible job, more stable job, more rigidity, more adaptability? The possibilities are endless. If you think that you have a subject down, in your high school days, and you're absolutely certain you want to go into it, it still doesn't dictate what kind of job you're going to do. Leave your options open and be open to experiencing and learning about new things.
This is definitely true. And I think we in that case have taken totally 2 different routes in that regard. I closed them, you kept them open, right? And this just goes to show that you just have to find whatever works for you.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who needs to be told how to do something, I'm so sorry, but no one can tell you how it's going to work for you specifically.
No.
And that's your journey that you're going to have to take.
Yeah.
But obviously there's people that are going to help, right? I think the last tip is do not be scared to ask for help from adults. If you need counseling, go to counseling, if you need for anything, if you need a therapist, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Right? If you need help, ask, because you're going to feel so much better, so much faster.
Yeah. If you're any younger than us listening to this, I mean, the only difference between someone who's 17 years old and someone who's 21 years old is 4 years of experience. Nothing else. 4 years. They have been alive for 4 extra years. That's all, right? There's no golden book of secrets, no dragon scroll you find when you're 18 years old and you become, a major, or you become an adult in whatever age category you're in and whatever, you know, municipality you're in. There's no secrets. You just keep on living and you keep on experiencing things and adding to your repertoire of experiences, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that fantastic final advice from Cassie G of just find your way, just figure it out.
Shit, sorry.
We're gonna end this one off. Thank you for joining us on the second episode. If you've made it this far, I've rescinded my offer to e-transfer you 25 cents because someone actually invoiced me for that after the previous episode. Please stop, whoever did that. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. This is the first time we've attempted having a substantive content and not just having us joke around and banter for an hour straight. Look forward
No
to
political tangents today.
no political tangents today. We're saving that for specific episodes now.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, look forward to a lot of content, maybe different guests, maybe it won't be Cass here next time. Booted off the show.
It's nice while it lasted.
Yeah. And we'll catch you next time. Don't have a sign off.
Not yet.
Yeah.